Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. This week, we'll be discussing Season 47, Episode 14 of SNL with host Oscar Isaac and musical guest mulligan Charli XCX. I'm Catherine Coleman, and I'm joined this week by Steve Finn and Lanny Harms. If you'd like to connect with Lanny, you can do so at Lanny Harms. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can do so at snlpodcast.com. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I'm excited to talk about this week's episode. It's good to be back. I really hope listening to John host again wasn't overly traumatic for anybody. But I'm here now. I've got Steve with me. How you doing, Steve?
Hello. It's good to see you. Very
Good
excited
to
to
see
get
you
into
too.
this.
Yeah, and of course, we also have the one and only Lanny Harms back on the show.
Hello, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I'm really excited you're here. I've been trying to get you on again this season. We've had a couple scheduling issues, so I'm glad we finally worked it out. You're here, you're ready. I can't wait to hear your amazing insights.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited.
All right, well, you ready to jump into the show?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Do it.
Live from Mar-a-Lago, it's the Ukrainian Invasion Celebration Spectacular. Lanny, what'd you think of this?
Okay. So I just want to say off the bat, I don't watch SNL regularly. I hope that's not a huge disappointment for everybody, but I do know my sketch like the back of my hand.
Right.
And so I haven't really been watching what they've been doing lately since Trump hasn't been a president. And I was immediately disappointed to see him again.
Right.
I think the premise of the sketch was solid. I think they couldn't not address the Ukrainian invasion, obviously, and satirizing Fox News, celebrating it, I think was a smart move. I honestly just don't know how to laugh at the situation yet, and so I felt just I just felt like I don't know what to do. So I just kind of was watching it awkwardly. But I think that I do think that what they did was smart. I think that this Trump impression was way better than Baldwin's with this new cast member. So good on that. I just really don't want to give him any more oxygen. That's just that's just my 2 cents.
No, that's totally fair. If you haven't been keeping up, it's sort of a bad week to jump in that front because to their credit, I think they've done Trump. This is maybe the 3rd time all season.
Great, love
which
to
is
hear it.
It's still 3 times too many in my humble opinion. But
Agreed.
if you were just really itching for some topical political commentary, you can go back. They have had a good amount of not Trump cold opens. So maybe not the best week to jump back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this overall was fine. It was an original premise to put them in this setting. It could have easily been a Fox News desk, right? It could have been on the Ingram Angle or on Tucker Carlson's show, and it wouldn't have been as good, right? The putting them in such a unique situation, at Mar-a-Lago, allows more people to come in, and it's just a little bit more festive, I think.
Yeah.
And I think there's some good jokes here, Bowen and Steven Seagal is funny. I always love the fake sponsors; those are great. The stairlift one was fabulous.
Yep.
I don't know. I do think there could have been some cuts made to this. I don't think either song landed particularly well. But overall, for a political cold open, it's definitely not the worst we've seen. I think it's a win is in that caveat. Steve, was it a win for you?
Okay. Surprised we're not hot on the songs, but that's all right.
Hey, if you are, that's great.
Well, let's just start by saying I think Fox News kind of earned this, the 180 they've done on the whole Ukraine situation. I think they deserve to catch a little flack for that. And I thought they did it in a pretty clever way. So I enjoyed this. And yeah, included in that is the singing. Because I hear you guys. You don't want to see Trump or give him oxygen at this point. But I just find it so interesting how James adapted Trump into a singing Trump, and the type of lounge singer persona he kind of spread over as a topping to what he's already established as Trump. And yeah, I just thought like the choices he made to actually go for a decent tone and actually hitting the notes and blending that in with his, pretty accurate impression of Trump. And they just kind of danced with each other and blended in and out in that performance. And I just thought it was captivating. I know that's not really what you should be doing in a comedy show. You should just be laughing and having fun. But I'm there like, wow, this is really interesting just to watch in real time how he's adapted this.
Maybe I would have liked the Trump song better if they had maybe cut the first one, because I think my biggest problem with the Trump song was it was just like at that point I felt like the sketch should be ending, and then we had a whole song. All right, well, that's a lot on the cold open. Let's talk about the monologue. Oscar Isaac Hernandez Estrada tells us about his first film, The Avenger. Steve, did you enjoy the monologue?
Absolutely. And it really shows what a difference it makes when the writers really have a clear idea in mind for a monologue and something they really seemingly want to do. So this is a monologue that's a perfect example of this, because just the idea of embracing your weirdness and just going through some very obscure history of Oscar Isaac and his youth was, it was brilliant. And I think a lot of us already know Oscar Isaac, but maybe not this side of him. And yeah, I just thought it was a great message to have. And yeah, these whoever wrote the monologue, I haven't looked it up yet, but they really had something they wanted to say with this, and it shows. So yeah, this is a very inspired piece.
Yeah, I loved this monologue. I thought there were some really excellent jokes up top about Hollywood. I told them they can pick two. I can play Timothy Chalamet's dad. And then the clips were just so cute and humanized him so much. Like he became instantly relatable to, all of us weirdos in that moment. And I just thought it was a really creative and unique monologue. Like I don't know that I think we've seen like old footage before, like with Kieran Culkin, we saw like him 20 years ago when he was like on SNL with his brother. But this is like, in my memory, at least the first time that it's like, yeah, here's some home footage of my first movie. And that's just like so cute and different. And allowing him to comment on that made it a huge win. I thought it was really fun. Lanny, what'd you think?
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I was so excited to do this episode because I love Oscar Isaac. And how did they do this? Like, he must have just been like, hey, I have a home video that I don't know if you want to do anything with it. And then they're like, absolutely, we want to do everything with this. And I
surely, yeah.
What a gift. What a beautiful gift. And I think it really was great, especially for a monologue as his first time hosting SNL, because I know him mostly as like a very serious and action actor. And, he's been sarcastic, but like it set him up to be a big old weirdo goofball, and I've never seen Oscar Isaac like that. And it made me enjoy his performances throughout the episode that much more because you saw that like kid side of him playing around. And so then you could see that in the sketches too. So I think this was so smart, so brilliant, so sweet on so many levels.
Yeah. So big win on the monologue.
Big win. Oh, and I also just am a sucker for home videos, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
For anyone. But this is just perfect. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep going. Is Marshall from Paw Patrol great? Yes. But do the citizens feel safe? No. It's time to recall the Paw Patrol initiative. Holy cow. I loved this sketch so much. I do not have kids, but my dog watches Paw Patrol, which I realize is an insane statement to make. But I don't know, it's like when we leave, I worry that she's gonna get lonely, so I like turn the TV on for her, so she's like, there's like noise. I don't know. It's weird. We like humanize the dog a lot, but in my brain, she loves Paw Patrol. So I'm familiar with the program, and I just think this was such a fantastic observation about the show because it is like I never thought about it, but it is weird that like it'd be one thing if like the dogs were in charge of a town full of dogs, but like it's like a town of humans and like the dogs are always rescuing them. Like that's weird. So I think that's just such a good observation. And then to put that into this narrative of like we need to recall the mayor, I think is really creative. So and then they found really great beats with it, and it was just a huge win for me. I was having so much fun with it. Lainey, I don't know if you watch Paw Patrol, but was it a win for you?
Well, so I do know Paw Patrol. My fiance's nieces and nephew love Paw Patrol, so I'm aware of it. And it is a really cute show. And so I thought this premise really worked. I thought this was a really funny, smart premise. And I think the general structure of the sketch was really good. And the way it heightened to the 911 call was really, really effective. Very good. I do feel like there were some jokes leading up to, like, when they had all the testimonials of all the people kind of like giving their piece on why they liked it. I feel like when it was just about how it was like just generic dog stuff, that didn't work quite as well for me. I felt like the most effective joke was like, for example, Keenan's when he was like, "This is my favorite dog," because he's like, because that's what people who watch the show like they have their favorites and
Everyone has a favorite, yeah.
Yeah, and they all have like a unique cartoon personality. And so I
Mhm.
feel like having the juxtaposition of the reality of the show with like the reality of a dog saving you was the most effective. And I think that's also why the 911 call was so effective. But then the
Mhm.
other ones when like it was just like saying like, "Oh yeah, he just like scooted his ass all over everywhere." It was just like, well, now we're not talking about the love of the show. I mean, not that
Mhm.
that's important. I just feel like the juxtaposition of like what the show is with the reality is where the fun really was. And I don't feel like
Mhm.
all of the jokes hit that quite so well. So it ended up feeling long to me for some of the times. I do wonder what this would be like for people who don't know Paw Patrol. I wonder if it made sense.
Yeah. Steve, do you know Paw Patrol?
No,
Okay.
All right.
but
Well, we're gonna find out.
I think it helps me with the perspective I have. First of all, Catherine, I want to say I don't think it's that weird with your dog. My cat loves
Good.
Pingu. It's another example.
Okay.
Uh, just loves that cartoon and has a preference
Good.
for it. So it's a real
Okay.
thing.
So if I'm crazy, so are you. That's comforting.
There's at least me with you, so you're not alone. But yeah, this is. I thought this was a great sketch, and I feel like it was for the parents out there who were watching, who
Mhm.
may be exposed to more Paw Patrol than they would normally watch on their own without, a child calling the shots. So if you're in that situation and you're just watching Paw Patrol against your will, you probably have a lot of time to think about all these weird plot holes if you hold it under scrutiny and try to apply it to like real world rules. And all of that stuff was great. It's a good premise to explore. But I think the real brilliance in this, and this is why it's interesting, because I don't know uh, Paw Patrol. I haven't seen it before, but I could tell that they were
You don't
going
have
for
a
a
favorite
specific.
dog.
No. But I could tell they were going for a specific style, and they went through the trouble to make these characters look like they came from that world with the hairstyles and the color scheme. Yeah, I feel like I've seen enough, I guess, marketing of it that I could tell that they did a good job in making these people feel like they came out of the Paw Patrol world. A little bit more stylized, of course, for comedy and made more realistic for the joke. But you could imagine them being in this cartoon from the way uh, the costumes and makeup was done. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they were way off, but from what I could tell, it was a good effort.
No, yeah, it was. They blended in like because they had the cartoon backdrops to them, right?
Yeah.
And so like you could tell like obviously like they weren't fully cartoonized, but like you're right, like the wardrobe, especially Mikey's wig, felt very
Mhm.
cartoony.
Right.
Um, all right, so overall a win with maybe a few nitpicky things
Yeah.
here. I agree. It could have been a little bit more focused on each beat.
Mhm.
All right, but let's truck on through. This Inventing Anna parody is so exclusive, and Chloe is the most VIP. So, who here has watched Inventing Anna? Just me then. Okay, I've I've watched like half of the first season, maybe. So I haven't finished it, but you don't have to finish it to appreciate the sketch. I loved it because I'll be really interested to see like what you do not having not seen it. But if you have seen it, this is so funny because Chloe nails that bizarre accent that the girl has, and then also there's this character and like the show tries to give her so much like, and she's a human being, she has depth and like motivations and everything, but on like most of what she says literally is like just like insulting people for no reason and saying things are VIP and exclusive. It's really weird. So like to make that the whole sketch of like Chloe's taking on this character but all that is like being mean to people is so funny. And I love that they didn't try to go beyond that for the sketch. And then at the end, that weird breakdown is like happens in the show, like very like maybe episode 2, like pretty early on. She like can't pay for this hotel room and just like dissociates. It is the most uncomfortable thing I've maybe ever watched, and it makes no sense. So like including that in there was also just like such a great moment for people in the know. And then obviously like Kate coming in was fun. So like I said, if you've seen the show, this had a lot going for it and was super fun. But Lanny, I'm very curious how you felt about it not knowing the show.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all because it just felt like one long voice impression. Like what you're saying does sound like there was a lot more nuance to it with the like different beats that they were hitting from the show. And the fact that what she was just saying VIP the whole time, like if that's all it is, like that's pretty funny. I feel like there could have been a way to like help people who haven't watched the show. I want to see the show. It does seem like a very interesting show for sure.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tune in. This really felt like a long just playing with the voice and just doing the voice and doing it to different people and in different ways and just being mean to people. Like that's what it felt like. So it's funny that like knowing that it is just being mean to people and repeating herself over and over again is what makes it funny for people who have seen the show. But for someone who hasn't seen the show, just watching someone be mean to people and repeat themselves over and over isn't that fun to watch. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
No, I think that's totally fair. And I anticipated that would probably be the opinion of people who haven't seen the show. Steve, do you agree with that?
I don't know. Just the voice itself is so ridiculous that even not having experienced it, it puts a smile on my face. And I know, like I've seen a little bit of a trailer of it, so I've heard the voice. I'm not intimate with it, like I'd have to watch an episode or two to know how accurate it is, truly.
Very.
But it's funny because I forget the actress's name, but she's also in Ozark. That show I have seen, and I always felt like if they ever did a parody of that, Chloe would have made a fine Ruth, which is her character in that. So here we are having her doing a different character from the same actress. So yeah, it feels organic to me at the very least. But yeah, I don't know. For all the stuff that it might go over my head from not watching it, I still enjoyed it. And I appreciated it for the kind of baton passing moment there was with Kate. And I felt like that was a nice poetic moment. Who knows? Maybe Kate stays for another 5.5 years, but if she does go, like this is a very special moment between two generations of cast members.
That moment with Kate was really nice because every female impressionist that comes in is like, oh, is this the next Kate? So to have them actually and Chloe and Kate actually do have sort of similar styles of impressions, I think. So it was like really nice to like have that, because as soon as Kate walked out, I was like, oh, are they gonna let her do this a little bit? Because that could be fun. And then they did. So I was happy with that. But yeah, there is something to be said for, obviously, like if you're in, it's great, but I do think a sketch should always be accessible somewhat to people who haven't seen the show, and then there can be those little moments that are in jokes with people who are familiar with it, So it's a little bit of a bummer that this maybe wasn't as accessible. Like they didn't introduce it enough to like make that fun for everybody. But I did still enjoy it. So
That's what it's about.
Yeah, they made this for me, and you know what? Sorry.
Yep. You could say we're the ones to blame for not having seen it, and
Yeah.
if
How
we
dare
want to
you not
enjoy,
consume infinite media?
if you want to enjoy the parodies on SNL, you have to be up to date on your pop culture, or it's on you.
Everything. Kids shows and current Netflix all included.
Yeah. What, you don't watch Paw Patrol? This show's not for you.
Also have to watch Fox News, apparently.
Right.
Too much
The
homework.
bar keeps raising. Yep.
I'm dropping out.
All right, well, let's keep going. These HR reps are definitely not having raw intercourse. Lanny, was this a win?
You're coming to me first. Okay. The way my notes go for this one is I was like, okay, slow start. All right. I guess these lines are pretty funny. Okay, this is a wild sketch. Okay, but the performances are good. Okay, this makes no sense, but I like it. I feel like I really didn't like it for a while because I was just like, this is just people being bad at their job for 3 minutes. Honestly, like, and this is what I'm talking about with that monologue helping me love Oscar Isaac in these sketches because I think he did have like seemed like he was having so much fun, and the way him and Cecily were playing off of each other was so fun, and how it just became that like, oh no, this is life could be worse, and it was like it just felt like the writer kept like abandoning what they had written for the last 3 lines and just started the sketch over and then started the sketch over. So I was like annoyed for a long time while watching it until like at the end I was like, oh, this is just ridiculous. And then I can't remember what those lines that the other employees had with each other. Oh my God. What?
Like the part about like how they were complaining about Keenan's character?
I actually didn't care for that because that felt too much like they were actually that made me confused on the reality of it because they weren't HR people. They were theater people basically doing a charade, and they still got complaints from a real
It was a very long con.
It was
they still
very
somehow
long.
knew that.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think it was just all of the wildness that they kept saying and they kept repeating, and I think it was really the raw intercourse being repeated over and over and over again, like was annoying at first and then got funny. It was just like one of those sketches for me. So I can't in good faith say this is a good sketch, but I'll say by the end I was like, fine. You guys are cute.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying for sure. Like there was a lot of setup with like the Keenan character that then like ultimately wasn't that relevant.
No, yeah.
And then it is like it's not, bad HR reps is not an exceptionally original premise, right?
Yeah.
But I did end up having fun with it because of like all of like the specifics and they threw in like every one of those examples had like such funny language in it, like
the language.
that juicy booty slaps, like that's like that's just funny to see. And then like so all of those slides were great, and then there was like all the stuff in the middle had like very fun language, like Cecily said, I'm wearing a hot little skirt suit, nothing underneath.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like,
the language,
so, like,
the lines were so good. Go on.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like every line was so funny. Like the premise itself was not fabulous, but all of the lines were so funny and getting laughs that like I did end up like I really liked this a lot. So it was a win for me, but I think, you're right in that there at first was some uneasiness coming at it as like a sketch writer, like, oh, bad at job, like analyzing it like that. Steve, where'd you land?
I gotta say, I did enjoy it, but I found myself thinking this is so different, but also familiar. Because, it for me at least reminded me of like something out of the 90s. Like I feel like this came out of a different decade, and not even like 90s SNL. This feels like a Mad TV sketch from the 90s.
It
Mad
has
TV,
yes.
Yeah.
Good old Mad TV.
That's the vibe I was getting from this. And I don't know, I guess I guess ideas and concepts can come full circle as time marches on, as we all get closer to our graves. But yeah, I felt like this was definitely something that was a downtrodden concept maybe a couple of decades ago, and here we go drudging it all up again. But it's I felt like it had a classic vibe to it. You have your simple recognizable scenarios, something from work, uh and yeah, the characters just happen to be outlandish and crazy, and yeah, it works on a very primal level of just like weird person in normal situation equals laughs. uh yeah, it's definitely got a simple uh a simple goal in mind, but whatever. Oscar's having fun. That's what I think is the main thing to take away with this is, this is a good example of how Oscar was just like really sinking his teeth into this hosting gig. And that was probably the most fun element of it.
Yeah. And I feel that way about a couple sketches tonight, actually. Like Oscar had an infectious energy about him.
100%.
Yeah, but what, like, I did enjoy this, but my like writery thing that annoyed me was that there was like 3 different buttons on the end. And it was like, why did, like, there was like, we don't work here, and like there was an out somewhere in that monologue, and then they were like, Kyle or whatever Keenan's character's name was,
Oh,
and then it was like, watch his show on the Weather Channel. I'm like, why are there
Yes.
so many endings?
The sketch was wild.
Wild.
I have to just can't let go of that. Like, we can't move on until it's very clear that this sketch was wild. Like, it didn't build on any reality. It just laid out. It changed everything as it continued. Yeah.
But you know what? I feel like when they add like those fake out endings at the end of a sketch, it's almost like it's a fail safe. Like if they need to add 10 or 20 seconds or remove 10 or 20 seconds, they could just peel off or add on one of these weird layers that's
true.
like at the end of the sketch.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know much about how it works behind the scenes, but that would be a theory.
It's an interesting theory because I do think that makes sense. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, we had to lose the last beat, but we can still throw on this little title card and wrap it
Yeah.
all up,
Yeah.
So, a begrudgingly liked sketch among the reviewers today, but fun nonetheless.
Yes.
Let's continue to this girl covered in little meatballs. And to answer your question, yes, they do harmonize and sing together in rhythm.
Before you ask.
I know what you're thinking. Steve, I know you tend to like very absurd stuff, so I'll let you speak on this insanity first.
Yeah, sure. This is definitely something that is very unapologetic. I think this is the sketch where they're saying, we've done enough of easing you into what Sarah does. We've given you glimpses of it, and we've really had the training wheels on it. And this is where they're taking them off and really letting her spread her weird ass body horror wings. I just love everything about this. She just took it to levels she really didn't have to. And it makes it all the more absurd. Like, for example, they're not boils, they're not pimples, warts, or anything that would naturally grow from you. They're meatballs. So she's just going out of her way to be as weird as possible. And it's it's really unsettling. She's always had a Lynchian vibe about her in her comedy. And I've always wondered how much SNL was going to let that come out. And it's nice to see that we're going further with it. I've been singing that song all day. I was stuffing a turkey and singing the Meatball song. It's got a fun melody to it. And yeah, who doesn't love a fun little Munchkin march?
Yeah, I think Sarah wrote this with Dan Beulah, who apparently did the music for it. And it's reminiscent of the Weed Gummy song, which I think Dan Beulah also did. So these sort of exist together. Now, Lenny, I know when I asked you like which episode you wanted to do, you were really excited about Charli XCX. So is this where you thought you were going to see her?
No, but boy, was I thrilled. I was so happy. Like, okay, I mean, if we're just going to talk about the Charli XCX thing, like real quick.
You can talk about any part of it you want.
Okay, well, I'll just start there. Just because I think I was really not expecting it to continue, like the sketch to keep going, and then that it did, and I was happy that it did, and then go into this like beautiful song with Charli as a meatball. Oh my god, like that is what the world needed. The world needs more Charli XCX as a meatball in space with beautiful makeup. Yeah, I loved it. And I really loved this sketch. I mean, I don't love gross out humor in general. And body horror stuff is not my thing. And so my first note is a big ew. but
Yeah.
but then once I got over it, and I did, I appreciated it so much. And like I said, I haven't been watching this season, and so I knew that they had cast Sarah Squirm this year, or Sarah. That's her stage name. Like,
Yeah.
her in the credits, she's Sherman.
Sarah Sherman, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I know she did JFL last year, and I kind of looked into who she was then, and I was very intrigued, and it was a very interesting casting choice, and so especially for SNL, and this is my first time seeing her in it, and I could not believe they were letting her go fully there, like full freak. I was so
Full freak.
Yes, I was like, this SNL needs this, and that's what I wrote down. Like I really didn't think that they would take that much of a risk and that much they would let. Again, maybe since I've missed like the few episodes with them having training wheels on, they've eased into it more than it was for me diving into this episode for the first time and seeing them do like a full meatball boil woman. And I just think it's so great. It's like I think for a midnight show on a Saturday, even though it is like a very mainstream show, I think it's so brave to like really let things go super weird alt, like feels like Adult Swimmy, and it just I just think it's so smart and so brave, and I'm so happy. This was my favorite sketch of the night. I shouldn't say that yet, but I I already said it. Sorry. I love this. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm torn on it. Like
Oh.
I think it's just because like gross stuff is not like my sense of humor.
Yeah.
And this is like just so gross. Like they even said like we're meatballs made of body meat, and I hated that.
I missed that.
So like the first time I watched this, I was very like, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. But I still appreciated even that first time that like technically the writing's great, and like compositing those faces onto the meatballs on her body, technically like very good editing. That takes a lot of work. And then the second time I watched it, I was able to like know what to brace for, and I had a good time with it that time. So like I just needed a primer, I couldn't go in blind to the meatball sketch. But that sort of, what the hell quality became something I really appreciated, as it just heightened, and we have Bowen like eating the cheese. Like each meatball had like their own character, and I thought that was really fun. And that line I referenced in like the setup, I thought was so brilliant. Like, because she is so blasé about it. Like, and to answer your question, yes, they do harmonize. Like, she's like, she's very much like not in the same world that Chris Redd's character is in. She's like, like this is sort of a gross thing about me, but like it's not like she clearly didn't think it was like that weird, So I did end up like really, really liking this. Although the first time I was like, this is disgusting. Why is this not the 10-1? Like I had a lot of questions. But overall, yeah, I think Sarah Sherman won me over with a little bit of gross out humor. Maybe I'm evolving,
I also wanted to shout out the director of this one, Mike Diva. My fiance actually noticed this on the credits at the end, that he saw Mike Diva's name on there. And he's been a fan of Mike Diva's because he did some viral videos, just online, and he recently directed Doja Cat's Get Into It, yeah, which is an immaculate music video. If you like music videos, like highly recommend checking that out. And so it's really cool that he also did this, and I think we're all kind of in awe of the construction of this sketch and the execution of it. And I feel like we gotta shout out Mike Diva there too,
Yeah.
because this really was well done.
Yeah, it was. And Mike Diva's done, he's done I think he's technically like an official film unit director at SNL now. Like
Okay, I love to hear that.
yeah. He's done a lot of things. But this was definitely the weirdest one, and probably the most technical one. So yeah, he did a great job for sure.
I wanted to say an amazing moment in this is, after she says it, you might as well let him go. As they're singing their song, they cut to her and she's just lying there completely lifeless, like her face is bereft of emotion. And I love that because that means Chris Red is just there alone, experiencing this. And she's not even present anymore, which I think really sells the what Chris on his side would be feeling. I just thought that part was brilliant.
Oh, and then
really funny.
And the other detail I love too was the choker at the beginning, because that is like a childhood book reference to the. I thought I was the only one who ever read that book, and then later grew up and realized everyone read and was traumatized by that book of the girl with the ribbon who they get married and then takes it off and her head falls off.
Right.
And that's where I thought that this was going, and then the fact that it just referenced it and then moved on was also just a wonderful little hey, we see you millennials.
Yeah. I definitely thought it was going to be like she's like partially decapitated sort of deal as well.
Totally.
Definitely didn't see Meatballs coming. That we can say for certain. Okay, well, let's keep going. Big win there. Let's talk about Charli XCX performing Beg for You and Baby. Now, Lanny, as we just mentioned, we know you're our Charli girl. So was this everything you hoped for?
No. I'm sorry. No. Okay. I love Charli. I've seen her live. I think she is fantastic. She has incredible music and she's a fantastic performer. I love her so much. I have no idea why they didn't do Good Ones as her first song. I know it was a single she had a long time ago, like a few months ago, and she did have to she canceled her last SNL performance, and it's been a few months to get back, and so I don't know if things have gotten rearranged, but the song that she did, Beg for You, that was the first one, just as someone who's aware of this current album rollout, that's not the song I would have chosen to start with. And the set was getting in the way the whole time. There was a curtain that kept flying in her face that didn't feel intentional. And I just feel like with her ability to perform and really sell a song, I just don't think this was the thing to showcase it for SNL. But I do think that she got it back fully for her last song. I thought that was a great closer. Part of me was I wish she had done that one first. But then I was also that's such a great closer. It's so much fun. I had just watched the video for this. This is for Baby, right? Was that the song? Yeah, this is for Baby. I just watched the music video this week, and so the choreography is the exact same, and it's such a fun video. Everyone go. I love music videos. Everyone should watch more music videos. But I think that she hit so hard. But even at the end of Beg for You, you could tell just from her that I think she knew it didn't hit quite as hard as she was probably hoping. And I just think she should have started with Good Ones. I'm not sure why her team would have not done that.
That's an interesting thing. Every pop star that I really like, I feel like no matter what, somehow the lead single on the album is always the worst song on the album. And I do not understand who's making
Good Ones
these decisions.
Was the lead single that I really like, and then they didn't do it. And so they did this one that the Beg for You is her not a duet, but she has featured with Rina Sawayama, and it's a good song, but it's it's just not the one.
Yeah, that's fair. They make weird decisions sometimes, Steve, did you enjoy the performances?
Yeah. maybe not my cup of tea, but I would say if I were to go to one of her concerts, I would probably say that was better than staying at home. You know, I would say that I don't regret leaving
High
my
bar.
house to see this. This is better than staying at home and doing nothing. So yeah, that's a positive. I think she's good. I just maybe didn't get a spark from it. Uh, I've definitely noted that she has a very unique uh, style. She's not your typical pop singer like you know some of these Selena Gomez and what's Vanessa Hudgens, these types. I feel like they can all like blend together.
Top of relevancy on that
You're
segment.
right.
I don't know.
Trying to say Olivia Rodrigo?
Sure. I just feel like a lot of pop
Vanessa
singers
Hudgens.
you could mistake for each other, but I could see myself like just not having a hard time recognizing a Charli XCX song or performance. She seems to have a lot of hip jiggling. There's like a very Polynesian kind of aspect to it. So yeah, the dancing was probably my favorite part more than the songs themselves, because she had some great choreography, especially with those two dudes in the second song. That was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be adding any Charli XCX to my playlists just to
That's so sad.
listen to, but maybe
Just
I need
listen
to hear
good
this song.
ones.
Good ones. I'm going to have to hear this and reevaluate my opinion.
Yes, please do, because it's worth it.
Okay. So this is what you're worried about, Laddie. Not leading with the right song. Maybe my impression of Charli XCX would be different right now.
Right. Like your impression of this performance right now is my nightmare. Like this, it's just like she has she has been one of those pop stars who's been around for a really long time. And I don't think that she's really gotten a whole lot of mainstream recognition. And a lot of that has been because of her label. She's had a lot of label issues, but she really has everything to be like a huge pop star. And it's just wild to me that she's not bigger, at least like with recognition. And so yeah, it felt like a really cool opportunity to really bring in more fans, more people, more audience. And it just, why would they start with that one? Why would they start with that one? She has this song with Christine the Queen and Carolyn Polachek, and it's also incredible. That's another one you should look up. I'm gonna look up the name of it.
No, I feel it is so like crushing when there's an artist that you really love and you're so excited for people to see, and then they just don't pick the right song, and you're so frustrated because it's so easy, especially when it's like a pop star. It's so easy for people to write them off, right? And you're like, no, I know, I've listened to the whole album. I know there's like some deep cuts on here that are great, and then they perform, for like Taylor Swift, it's "Look What You Made Me Do," and I'm like, why did you do? Why?
Yeah.
Of all the songs on that album that are great, that's the one we're gonna perform, and it's just so frustrating.
It really is. New Shapes is the song. I highly recommend and the music video is immaculate. Absolutely go watch it. She's one to watch. She's not one to watch. She's been around. But just go listen. This album's gonna be really good.
No. But I am gonna say the thing that I am happy to take away is that I'm excited for Charli on SNL because she was in that Meatballs thing. When she was supposed to be on with Paul Rudd, there was a pre-tape she was in that was bizarre about Christmas socks, and she was like Rockstar Parrot in that one.
TJ Rocks.
TJ Rocks, that's right. That's what her name was.
TJ Rocks.
And that is so good, Lanny. If you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. So I'm excited to see that she is this star that's willing, a musical guest that's willing to come on and just put herself into some really crazy things. She's putting on a parrot costume. She's putting her face in a meatball. And that makes me look forward to her being announced as a musical guest. Even if I didn't love these performances, I'm like, oh, like what weird thing are they going to cook up for her to cameo in, So as a person, she seems like a really fun person to be game for that sort of stuff. All right. So Unfortunately, not the best review on Charli.
I didn't say I hated her.
Well, good. I hope. I just really hope that in this segment, at least, there's anyone out there who can hear my call and my plea. And it wasn't even that she did. Again, I really thought her second song hit so good. It was the choreo and the singing, she nailed it. The first song really was she does so much more than that. She does so much more than that. And I think her nails were maybe too long and it was distracting. I don't know.
They were distracting. That's all my husband could look at.
Many people could look at it. And then the curtain, it was like the energy was off. She wasn't bad. It just the energy was off and she's so on all the time. So just please, just go stream some Charli tonight.
Okay.
For the love of Lanny Harms, please stream at least one Charli XCX song tonight. Okay, well, let's get into update.
Great.
For their lead-in, Jost and Shay discuss nuclear war and all of the other fun details of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Steve, was this a good update?
It was acceptable for sure. We're continuing with some heavy subject matter. I just feel relieved because, I heard about the news of Lindsey Graham's, pretty much saying that Putin should be assassinated. And I remember having a reaction to that. Maybe I shouldn't say out loud what I thought, but, when I saw the headline wasn't Lindsey Graham says we should kill Putin. The headline was everybody's mad at Lindsey Graham for saying he should kill Putin. So I'm like, I guess we should, not condone such words. So I felt kind of relieved when Jost made a joke that confirmed what I was thinking. Maybe that's not the worst idea. Maybe at the very least I can say I can understand both sides of that.
It's a war crime and obviously shouldn't be condoned, but it does suck.
I feel like that war crime would stop a lot of war crimes.
Right. True.
From happening. It's like, that Dave Chappelle bit where he rapes to save. It's like what kind of bad behavior justifies the prevention of more bad behavior? I don't know. I'm just glad that joke was in there because
made you feel better about yourself.
I felt myself entertaining ideas that I was surprised at myself for having. So that's what I got out of this.
Fair enough. I think there was some strong stuff in there tonight. In particular, in between the two features, I think they were on a really good roll of jokes. That they had the Tyler Perry joke in there, the Shamrock Shake joke, National Pig Day. Those were all pretty much in a row, and those were all really strong. There were some laugh out louds at the top too, but that streak in the middle was a very strong peak update for the season. I think actually was really good. Lanny, was it a win for you?
I agree with you. The in between the segments, the segments really fell flat for me. But I feel like in between that, I'm consistently surprised by how much I enjoy Colin and Michael's jokes. I always am like, I always kind of roll my eyes thinking about them, but then when I see their jokes, I'm like, damn, but they're good. They are and I thought up top, especially the jokes they were doing of the pictures, when a picture came up and then they said this is DeSantis after he was just told someone's pronouns. That was so good. And I also really loved the Williams joke, the about Serena and Vanessa, and then they gave the apology to Wendy Williams. It was very good. I was very, very impressed with them. And then not so much with Kate and Egos.
Yeah. Well, let's get into those then.
Okay. Yeah.
Gay, gay, gay. We can sing the song if you want. But Kate McKinnon here to discuss the Don't Say Gay bill. So I guess I'll go first on this as I am a queer person from the South. So I think I like have to go first. I don't really want to, but it's the law. So I'll say it was really interesting to see Kate do this, because Kate is someone who's been pretty open about the fact that she's not comfortable really speaking about things as herself. She would always, like, she's said many times that she would always rather tackle issues, and she's passionate about issues, but she wants to do them like in a wig as a character. That's just like how she's most comfortable doing it. So to see her come out like introduced as Kate McKinnon here to talk about and like do it, there was no veil of Doctor We Notice, to be lifted. Like that was really special to see that. And I think that means obviously that she feels really strongly about this, as you would assume she does. So and then I thought like the game of it, of her not getting it, was sort of fun. And then once they started going, like the part that really worked for me was once they got to her sort of breaking down how illogical the law is by saying like, so one kid just has to say that he lives with two men who bought him when he was young. I thought like that was like really sharp commentary that was also really funny. And I just wish there had been a little bit more of that stuff where she's in the weeds with the logic of the bill more. But overall, like it was an interesting piece. And for me, like the highlight was seeing Kate sort of as Kate take a stand for something. I thought that was really interesting. Lainey, I know you said it didn't quite land for you, so yeah.
No, that context really does help me appreciate this more. So thank you for sharing that. I like to hear that, and I do feel like it was there were parts that did work, and it really just again was one of those issues of it changing all the time. Like it came up where she misunderstood it, and then it was about her just saying gay all the time because she can't get the word gay out of her head. And then it became about like the more sharp commentary like you're talking about at the end. And I wish it just would have felt more cohesive somehow. It doesn't all have to be the same. I mean, because she's not doing a character, she is doing like a conversation. I don't know. There was like a little bit too much artifice for what was supposed to be a conversation with the real person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it just it kind of I just wasn't sure where to really like hold on to, and I felt like I was slipping from what they were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not exceptionally focused. I
Yeah.
think that's a fair critique. Steve, any closing thoughts on this one?
Well, I agree with everyone. It was chunky. It had one part here where she doesn't understand the law and realizes, what it actually means. Then the not getting gay out of her head. That's all. Yeah, very contrived mini ideas kind of stitched together. And it left me feeling like maybe it just didn't feel inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one thing where you look at a situation that's happening in the news or in current events and say, this gives me a really funny idea. And then there's times where you see a current event or piece of news that makes you think, I feel like I have to say something about this. Now, what ideas can I come up with that are funny and a good joke that also says what I want to say? I feel like this was more of the latter, where they wanted to do something on this subject matter and then went looking for the ideas for it. So, just yeah. Like Lanny said, there were things that were working. Once we got past that awkward middle part of not being able to keep from saying gay, there was some interesting comments made. But yeah, it just didn't feel cohesive or smooth in any way.
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
I appreciate them for trying. Like it's a good. Especially if Kate really felt like passionate about going out there and taking a stand as herself. Like I appreciate them for going for it, and I think it was a strong setup. It just it kind of it tripped a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it is sort of a bummer when that happens, because it's like an issue that I think probably all of us are like, yeah, Florida's crazy. Like that's insane. That's awful.
Florida, right?
And like it's great that they want to comment on it. But yeah, it definitely could have been in a stronger piece probably.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well let's talk about Ego then. Her pushy and her tubes are loose. Pauline is pregnant again. Steve, were you a fan of this?
Yeah, for many of the same reasons I love a lot of Ego's pieces. She's just really fun and likable in all of her pieces. She's got a lot of tude, man. Do we still say that?
No.
She's
No.
got tude. Well, it
Maybe
saves time.
Vanessa
doesn't it?
Hutchinson still says it.
Oh, touche. Brick joke. Okay. But yeah, Ego just sells most things she does, and this was brilliant. It was an idea that reminds me of other sketches they've done. I think when that One Direction guy he hosted, they did something similar with Heidi. They were like a Swedish couple that made
Yeah.
pregnancy just so glorious. Yeah, similar to that premise where it just kind of highlights how pregnancy is for us normal folk, usually, when you're not a big famous rich pop star. Yeah, I just found Ego had a great way of approaching this subject matter, and she made a great hilarious sketch out of it.
Yeah.
Simple stuff, but it works.
Yeah, and we've seen this character before, right? This was previous, or maybe it got. Did it ever make it on? Because there was a version that was like the woman in Darkest Hours, and she had just gotten back from Disney World. Was that? Have you seen that, Steve? Or is
Yeah,
that
I
cut
was
for time?
wondering if this was, because I felt like I've seen something similar to this. I don't know if it was
Okay.
supposed to be the exact same person, but I
Okay,
think
because I know I saw that feature. Like went to a dress rehearsal and saw it, and it got cut, and I thought it had made it on at a later show. And I think it did. So if you're saying it's familiar, then it probably did. Okay. I think this is the same person. And yeah, that first appearance was all about she had just gotten back from Disney World, and it made her sort of hate her kids, basically. And it was really great, and I loved it. And so I was excited to see Pauline back, and I thought they found a nice topical reason to bring her back. It wasn't just because they could. Like, she had something to talk about with Rihanna, right? And I liked that juxtaposition, like you said, of the famous pregnancy where she has a team of stylists and stuff to like make her look nice, and then like a normal person who's just like feels awful all the time. And they kept widening that gap, right? With she looks like she's going to a sex funeral, and like I look like this. So I thought this was really fun. Laney, and you obviously don't have the context of the previous outing, so you were not as big of a fan, I guess.
I guess I'm the dissenting opinion here. I felt like, so I didn't have the context of seeing this before, but I also just felt like this was kind of boring idea. I mean, she okay, I think the idea of juxtaposing Rihanna, a glamorous woman who looks so beautiful pregnant, like, exceptionally beautiful, with, like, the reality of what pregnancy actually is. I think that is, funny, and I think there's a lot of fodder to be had there. I just don't feel like they really followed through with the premise that they set up, like, 'cause they only had 2 photos that they put up against with Ego, and I also feel like Ego's, what she was saying felt very generic, and I think that's what I was meant that didn't feel very, original, because it did just feel like tired mom, like, complaining about pregnancy, and I just wanted more back and forth with Rihanna, or with the pictures, or with any of that, and, the specificity, I feel like we were lacking some specificity to, like, make the
Mhm.
jokes pop, but maybe having the context that she hates her kids, her current kids, and now she's pregnant again, like, that maybe that would have helped me enjoy it more, but I also do have the philosophy that you shouldn't have to have any
Mhm.
background knowledge to enjoy something,
Right.
especially like
Yeah.
a weekly sketch show, so, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
It doesn't help
Yeah.
that reveal at the end with Michael Che being the father
Oh, yeah, that
didn't
was
really
also
have much to
clunky.
do with the idea behind this sketch. It was kind of just tacked on as a extra laugh without being thematically relevant.
Right. I just thought it was weird. Like, I feel like that's a weird joke to make too. Like, randomly, like it just like you don't like condoms and that's why I'm pregnant. Like that I felt like that's also a little tired. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
Michael. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Then that's fair. I think maybe the context would have made it a little bit more enjoyable, but what you're saying is absolutely right. It was not super specific or incredibly heightened.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. All right, so mixed reviews on our last feature. Let's hop into the back half of the show here. 80s pattern of sexual randomness continues as she seduces Oscar Isaac. Lanny, was this one a win?
Oh, no. I didn't
That's
love
okay.
I feel like I'm being a little negative Nancy here, but
No, it's fine.
that's okay. I felt like there was just too many layers of explaining on this one. Like we had 80 come in and like explain why we're about to see the sketch we just saw. And I do feel like the context of her having played like 150 like boring, dumpy, teacherly, matronly like women was helpful to know. But then I don't feel like we actually had like she didn't really have fun in the sketch of it. Like, I feel like she was a little bit, like, always looking nervous that she was doing this, that, like, Oscar Isaac was gonna catch on to it, like, he was having more fun than she was in the sketch itself,
Mhm.
and then the pausing in between and having her explain more and more and more. Again, the reality of it just was like, "Okay, is this live or is this not? Like, is this" I kept getting pulled out of it and the fourth wall being broken, like, even with Oscar Isaac asking about, like, this, why is his name on there? Like, I I just got very distracted by all of it, and I didn't feel like this premise could have worked. I just feel like 80 needed to be having more fun in the actual sketch of it, and really, like, she set this up. Like, the premise of this is
Mhm.
that she made this happen, so she should be, like, uh, living her dream out, like,
Right.
having a romantic thing with Oscar Isaac. She's earned it. She's played 150, like, non-sexualized characters, so enjoy it, you know? So then it
Mhm.
just kinda, like I was just like, "What are we laughing at now?" I'm confused.
Yeah, that's a really great observation. She definitely could have been living it up a little more, like, "Yes, tell me more," sort of
Yeah.
vibes. Uh, Steve, do you agree?
Yeah, it just it left me having questions, not necessarily like complaints, but I was just like, is this did she have this sketch written or not? Like when
Mhm.
he prompts her to give her catchphrase and she's like, "Oh, what is it?" Like, no, is she making this stuff up on the spot or like did she have writers put her in this situation? Like what is the setup here? Cuz like the more this goes on, the less I'm sure about what this is supposed to be. Uh the highlights for me were the pre-recorded bits because 80's just a great performer and she was really, chewing on it for those little vignettes that were interspersed. Probably shouldn't be the best thing of a sketch like this though. So that's maybe a sign that this is working as well as it should be. So yeah, I don't know. If it weren't for if this was like a different performer, I'd probably be like way down in the dumps on this. 80 elevates it just being 80 to an extent.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
as it should be, it is maybe not enough to give this amazing marks. Doesn't pass with blinding colors by any means.
Yeah, this was just alright, and, yeah, if you think about it too hard, it does start to unravel a bit, like, okay, obviously, we're never meant to think about an SNL sketch that hard, but you're like, "Wait, well, did they do this at dress rehearsal? He would have seen his name on the cards then, like, that's insufferable." But, but you're right, like, if you start to think about it, then it does fall apart a little bit, but I like a good, like, meta commentary. I do think that that's sort of fun. 80s little asides helped it, and then, like, it caving in on itself at the end, but it wasn't, like, big belly laughs, but the thing that I to get even more meta, took away from this that I did enjoy was that there was, I think Tina Fey said that sometimes when she was having trouble coming up with ideas at the show, she would make a list for, like, the host that was coming in, what are like 5 roles that they would never be cast as, and what are 5 roles that they will always be typecast as. And so to sort of make a sketch based on that. So it's really interesting just to see it in this era where we have a lot of cast members that have been there for, 8, 9, 10 years plus, be able to have that sort of concept push upon them because they are enough of the star now, like as opposed to the host, that like you can be like, well, 80, we are familiar, the audience is familiar enough with her in the role she always plays on the show that we can now turn that on its head and people will understand what it is. So that was sort of interesting for me as just like a fan of the show to like overthink it and go even more meta with it and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. But the sketch itself, yeah, wasn't really anything special. Sorry.
Fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see if our last two can bring us back up. When your DIY becomes OMG, you're in over your head. And Steve, what'd you think of this one?
Very simple. It was, I guess, for what it was an okay sketch. They were really going for, this isn't a head scratcher. This premise is going to make sense to most people. I'd say
it's not
all
Meatballs.
People. It's not Meatballs. No, this is your.
That one made sense. Sexual woman didn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, the ordering of this episode is just so strange. The more we get onto it, the more we get through it, the more we have these more just more traditional, I guess, type sketches. This works for the reasons that SNL just works in the first place. Just everyone's a professional. Keenan is driving this ship. We're in good hands with him. There's some funny ideas in here. There's stuff to like. Maybe it's not a laugh a minute riot, but I think it just serves a purpose and fills some time. And Oscar is probably one of my more favorite parts of this. He had a fun character, some great lines about picking up his check. There were some genuinely good moments. Kyle and Keenan share a look that seemed to throw each other off for a moment, for a beat. Stuff like that was really tickling me. It just wasn't aiming very high for anything, but that's never a crime. It's sometimes fun to just go for a simple idea and explore that.
Yeah, this was probably the weakest of the night to me. It's very, very grounded for being so late in the show, which is sort of like what you were saying, Steve. Like, obviously, I understand there's more to breaking down the order of the show than strictly most normal to most weird. Like, there's time constraints. There's a lot going in, but as far as strictly speaking, this would seem like this is a very pre-update feeling sketch, right? Whereas like Meatballs definitely feels end of the show. So this just wasn't what I was looking for in the slot of the show. I'm used to things getting weirder, and I was like, oh, this is just sort of pretty grounded, pretty. It's a fine premise. Like I can have a little fun with this, but it's not anything like really crazy or really heightened, right? So I'll say what I liked, like you said, Steve, was that Oscar Isaac stole the scene. I mean, his character had like such good energy. His delivery was great. Like he had that one line where like I think Keaton said, like, "What did you learn?" He was like, "Gloves. I think I need gloves." Like
gloves,
that was just the way he just stuttered into that was really great. So I was having fun with Oscar in this scene, but the sketch itself wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. Lanny, where'd you land?
I didn't need anything before Oscar and I didn't need anything after Oscar. This is all Oscar. I was very like, what is this premise? It's a DIY show and you just have people come on and talk to you and You don't even like give them anything. You don't give them any advice. There's no working together to fix anything or make anything. It's just people talking about issues that they had and then they leave. And it's like,
listen to what this idiot did.
Yeah, that's not really it's not a premise of a show. It's certainly not a premise of a sketch. So I was like,
something I would never agree to go on.
Yeah, weird. But then Oscar was just so good. And for giving the writer some props, the monologue was very funny. That Oscar was not really a monologue, but felt like a monologue. Like his whole dialogue and his whole story was really, really funny. And my fiance, who is Cuban, was very like elated to hear an authentic Cuban accent on SNL. So that was very exciting. And it made me start thinking, like, why didn't he get cast in the Lucy and Ricky movie?
Right?
Why Javier Bardem? Like, this would have been, I just, my mind started like thinking of all the possibilities that could have happened there. And then the sketch was still going on. And I was like, why is the one woman who's coming on just like being a nag and like telling this person that they're doing a bad job? And I was like, bad. Oscar wasn't there and I didn't care anymore. So yeah, I think this was a very weak sketch, but Oscar, my God, what a show. What a performance.
Yeah. All right. So not high marks on that one. Let's see if we can end it on a high. A lonely janitor shares his Dua Lipa fan fiction to a group of unwilling listeners. Lanny, where'd you land on this one?
I didn't. I thought that last half of the show was pretty weak. I didn't. I thought it was okay. First of all, there's a lot of like explaining we have to do just to get him to like start saying his story, and that felt really unnecessary. He could have just come in and been like, "Hey, do you mind if I read a story I have? I've noticed you've had this class while I clean," and like, great, we're there. But there was like all this back and forth of like, "No, come on, sit down." No, I couldn't. Oh, come on, I was like, we just want to get to his story. Let's just do it.
Mm-hmm.
That could have just been more simple. And I just didn't buy the premise that all the women thought that this was creepy, that he was just writing a pretty normal fanfic, like it's with a pop star who's like, she's famously good looking. Like
She wasn't even immediately naked.
No, it was, we were gradually getting somewhere. Like this, I don't know. It kind of bothered me that all the women were immediately like off put and called him creepy for doing this. Cause it was this isn't creepy. This is pretty normal. So I didn't even know what the funny thing was. I thought, again, Oscar Isaac did a great job. And I thought like the way he was telling the story and getting into it was really fun. So props to that. But yeah, otherwise, so much of this didn't work for me.
Yeah. And I hadn't really considered that about the women, but it is interesting that they were, because while fan fiction about like real people is a little cringy and weird, we've all probably read one.
Yeah.
Like in your darkest hours as a teen, like, come on. You weren't immediately disgusted by this guy. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. Okay. But no, I appreciated the premise. I liked that they, all fan fiction is bad in exactly this way. Like, it's a circumstance that literally would never happen in a million years in a myriad of ways. There's like this weird, inexplicable instant connection, and like there's always like they always do say like the full name of the person. Like it's always Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa side, So I thought that was like a fun like observation. I thought that was interesting. I just wish like it could have been more active. I think that would have brought me into the world more. Like obviously like this adds a lot of production, but maybe we go into his imagination and see little animated characters or something, just to like liven this up a bit so it's not just Oscar Isaac reading from a notebook the whole time. Because like while the things he's saying are funny, it's not necessarily the most engaging television to watch, right? So I think this had some good moments, but ultimately left me wanting a little bit.
I also just making it more active. I was sure Dua Lipa was going to come in because
Right?
I actually went to Dua Lipa's concert this week, so I knew she was in
nice.
town. It was very good. She's again, I love pop music, but like this, she was very, very good. And I just thought, like, I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like he's going to do this fanfic, and then it's going to start happening. How cool.
That
But
would have also been really great. Like he reads it and it's like Dua Lipa comes around the corner and then there she is in the doorway. That would have been
yeah, that would have been
hilarious.
fun and
Yeah.
surprising. Yeah.
Steve, were you invested in the story?
I guess, as they're encouraging him to join their group and start reading something, as it's playing out, I'm like, okay, I wonder how this is going to, come to be that they regret it. uh, yeah, you just want to say, hey, lady, don't you know you're in a comedy sketch? This could only, uh, not bode well for you. Uh, but this is what we get. And there's some stuff that works for it. And I think a lot of what works is, how this story is written and the delivery of it. But the very amateurish style of writing that that this adheres to is a lot of the charm, I think. And yeah, I think the women were a little too quick to, you know, be repulsed because yeah, it was very innocent up until it wasn't, where he skipped ahead. And I don't know. I think it was funny. It was a funny element how like the men wanted to hear more and the women were like, let's stop. But you could argue that all of that egging on at the beginning and the fact that they had to talk him into it, I think that helps explain why they let him finish. Because they
Mhm.
were like, okay, well, we're kind of responsible for this. We did like he did protest at first to not read anything, and then we made him. So I think we should let him finish, even though we're all kind of uncomfortable. So I don't know. Maybe we're just trying to overanalyze the logic of a sketch again. At least I am. But yeah, just a thought.
Which is always a fair thought because, sketch comedy usually isn't meant to be thought of too hard.
No, and
uh,
this is one of them.
but yeah, so yeah, this had had something going for it, but maybe, as the outside viewer looking into a finished product, we're like, oh, but it could have had, if only you had taken another week, we could have had these great things added on. All right, well, that is the end of our rundown. So let's get into our overall thoughts and ratings. Up first is Moment of the Night. Lanny, what is it?
Whew, moment of the night. I'll say when all of the meatballs are harmonizing together for the first time and it's a true symphony. I thought that was magic.
A true symphony of body meat meatballs.
Mhm.
I was torn on mine because I think the line that I have previously mentioned of her saying, "Yes, and to answer your question, they do harmonize," is so funny and just like adds to that sketch so much. But I also do really love in the cold open the sponsor of Acorn Lifts. You're going to heaven soon anyway. You may as well practice going up is really funny. Um, I guess I'll give it to the Acorn Lifts ad because I think that those ads are often the best part of a Laura Ingraham cold open, and that one in particular felt very inspired. Steve, what's your moment?
I'm giving it to the licking of the sword at the
Oh.
end of the monologue. I just love how that paid off everything that was set up for it. Uh, it's a great message, every step in your journey is meaningful. And for them to go through the trouble to have this home movie on there and then to, yeah, actually have a prop sword there to lick the blood off. Just saying, this would never happen unless I, Oscar Isaac, had this journey from there to here. And I'm using this moment to just do something that would never happen otherwise. And I think, yeah, it was
Mhm.
pretty profound.
Yeah, nice heartwarming full circle moment of licking blood off of a sword.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For all the
Okay,
weird
well
ones
let's
out there.
uh,
I
for
loved it.
all of us little weirdos. Let's talk about best sketch, Lanny. You sort of told us where it was going, but
yeah, I think I already showed it. Yes, it's the meatballs singing on my body.
What a way to describe it.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's winner for me.
Yeah, and that one really won me over on the second watch. But I think Paw Patrol is it for me. I had so much fun being familiar with the show, and then I was just laughing out loud at the premise of these dogs make no sense in this town. I was having a good time. Steve, what's your best sketch?
I'll give it to the meatball sketch. Yeah, nobody's surprised. I always go for the weird stuff. And yeah, this was just a whole new layer of Sarah Sherman that they're letting out into the world. I love that they hired her and then allowed her to just be who she is. And if we're being honest, she could go even weirder than this. This is not the weirdest
I'm
thing
sure
she's
she
ever
can.
done.
Mhm.
They could
Yeah.
they could rate her out even further if they wanted to, but I'm just appreciative that they've gone this far with her. This was a brilliant sketch, and all of the people that came together to put this weird idea on television, because there's animation, there's a lot of tracking work, with the amount she's moving her body. They really didn't restrict her and say, okay, we're going to make you do this completely still so it's easier. No, they let her do what she wanted to do, and this team was behind her to bring it to life.
It is a thing to love about SNL is that they were willing to throw God knows how much money at making this meatball sketch happen. Like there was so much green screening. There was they brought in puppeteers. Like they had multiple people working, I'm sure, to composite these meatballs on. Like it is just wild that that we do live in a world that's like, all right, yeah, that a few $100,000 on that, no problem. All right. Well, our next category is MVP. Lanny, who's it going to?
Can I say Oscar Isaac?
Sure.
Okay, because it's Oscar Isaac all the way for me. Like, he really helped me enjoy sketches that I otherwise just did not like at all. So, 100% Oscar Isaac tonight.
I agree. Oscar Isaac, he was obviously he was in everything, but he was also the lead in a lot of sketches. Sometimes you see a host that will fade into the background on a few of them, but he was really front and center on pretty much everything, and was the thing to love about a lot of them. Like the handyman one, his character was the best part. Even that 80s sketch that was a little weaker, he was having fun with it. He brought something really likable there. And so I just thought he did a really good job, and I would love to see him back. Steve, are you going to make it unanimous?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oscar was great. He deserves it. He brought something to every character he played. There was a little voice or characteristic that he brought to it. I really feel like he made every sketch his own, more than a lot of other hosts did.
All right, so a unanimous MVP to Oscar Isaac. Let's talk about the big one. On a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, Lanny, how would you rate this episode?
Solid, decent, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I didn't. There was really only the meatball sketch that I say I fully enjoyed 100%. And a lot of other really good moments in all the other sketches, and especially the first half of the show, I was enjoying it the whole time. Even though I was kind of getting bumped here and there, but the back half was just very, very weak. So it has to be decent for me. And Charlie chose the wrong song for the first one, so that is always going to be disappointing to me.
Yeah, that really wrecked your night.
I don't think you'll get over this very soon.
No, I will not. If this affects our ticket sales, I swear to God.
I don't know. I'm willing to give this a great, because I think the first half, especially for me who has seen Inventing Anna, was really, really strong. it was a decent cold open, great monologue. I loved Paw Patrol. I loved Inventing Anna, and then like from there, it started to trend down a little bit. But I had some fun with Update. But like you said, the back half of the show really was pretty weak for me. So it definitely can't get into classic. But I think if you cut out a few things, you have a really solid hour for like for the vintage episode. So I think it is great, especially with how much I loved a few of those in the first half. So yeah, I'm gonna land on great. Steve, where are you gonna go?
I will go with decent. I feel like it it had some rough patches. We have Oscar to thank for saving a lot of stuff that could have
Yes.
dragged this down even further. So yeah, this is decent for that reason. Because I could even argue for a weak rating with the way that some of these sketches, ended up. But I just feel like having Oscar there, just giving it his all, even if there was nothing else to enjoy, you could at least appreciate that.
hmm
So yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised with the great. I don't think great was ever like a consideration for me as I was considering what to rate it. But no, Catherine, you have your legitimate arguments to support that, I'm sure. But I just feel this is like an easy decision to make on a decent.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I don't know. I thought the first half was so good. Maybe I was just in a really good mood last night. Who could know?
And who
Maybe.
knows? Maybe again, the Inventing Anna was a big like thing where we disagreed a lot.
That's true,
So
yeah.
that would change it a lot, especially if you saw
Mhm.
3 sketches in a row that were like pretty solid. That would
Yeah, like I mean, the first half really didn't have any misses for me because I loved the Inventing Anna thing. So yeah, like, that definitely put a big dip into like I think y'all's roller coaster of the show.
hmm
So I don't know. I'm gonna stay to my guns. I'm gonna stay at great. You
Stay
can't
there.
convince me otherwise, Steven. Uh,
Just stay there. It's fine.
all right. Well, it was a very fun show to discuss, fun to break down. Great first time host. Would love to see him back. And hopefully we get more Charli XCX with maybe some better song
Oh
choices.
my god, please. It is essential. Charlie, hear our cry.
Very good. Lainey, thank you so much for being here. This was so fun. I'm glad to have you back. You got any projects you want to talk about before you go?
Yes, I do. I host a podcast. I co-host a podcast with my friend Becca Roth, and we are deep diving into Mary-Kate and Ashley's career from the very beginning. We are currently in their Passport to Paris era, so it's a perfect
Nice.
time to jump in. It really is mostly for Mary-Kate and Ashley fans, but we are also trying to give recognition to the cultural impact that Mary-Kate and Ashley truly did have on especially the millennial generation, but that I
Mhm.
think it spans beyond that. And we're trying to lay the foundation to with this whole obsession with the nostalgia in the 90s and 2000s, we feel like Mary-Kate and Ashley have to be part of that conversation. And I feel like they're
Yeah.
not enough most of the time. So if that interests you, come check us out. We're They Thought I Was You. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Now, have you done To
Very good.
Grandmother's House We Go yet?
Of course we did. We're going in
Okay.
order, baby. We're
That's
going
one
from
of
the
my favorites.
beginning up until so we're going down the timeline, and then we're taking the pauses and bits to like focus on things along the way, and it's a great time. You love Grandmother's House We Go?
Yeah, that's one I remember fondly.
Okay, great.
Why is
We
that
didn't love
lowering?
it.
You didn't love it?
We didn't love it. In their canon, it's not one I would rate highly, but I appreciate you for liking it. It has a great family Christmas time feel to it. So I'm supporting you, supporting that movie.
I probably just haven't seen very many. This is the problem.
Right. Yes. They've done many better movies, which is really what I want everyone to take from this conversation. Not so much that Grandmother's House Go is bad, but there's a lot better.
You've given me a lot to consider. You've given me a lot to think about. I'm gonna
Good.
have to do some rewatches, tune into the podcast, and sounds like learn a few things.
That's what I would hope.
And I'm sure be
Feel a few
entertained.
be entertained, and feel a few things. I've cried multiple times making this podcast.
Wow. That's good radio right there. Emotionally moving Mary-Kate and Ashley content.
Thank you. We get real,
That's what we live
baby.
for.
We get real
trust
about
you.
this. Their life was not easy.
No, it was not. All right. So what it's called? They Thought I Was You.
Yes, just like from
That's the
It
name of
Takes Two. They thought I was you.
Okay.
All right. Available on your podcast platform of choice. And that is a wrap. Thanks to Lanny Harms and Steve Finn. And thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Grace Kogan, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow, and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back in 1 week when SNL returns with host Catwoman and musical guest Rosalia. But until then, this has been episode number 155 of the Saturday Night Live After Party podcast. I'm Catherine Coleman. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.